I still remember that day vividly, a day when the image of a little dog named Max became permanently etched in my memory. The call reached us around noon, under the scorching summer sun, about a family who had just decided to abandon their dog. The informant said Max was suffering from severe ascites, his belly swollen to an abnormal size, as if it could burst at any moment. His former family, overwhelmed by fear and lacking the means to treat him, chose the easiest way out: abandonment. My heart sank as I listened. I had witnessed countless injustices, countless animals abandoned, yet the pain never dulled. I couldn't stop asking myself, why must loyal, innocent souls like Max bear the consequences of human indifference? I quickly gathered what I needed: a carrier, soft blankets, some first aid supplies, and a bottle of cool water. I knew this trip wasn't just about saving a life, it was a race against time. If delayed, the fluid in Max's belly could compress his organs, directly threatening his life. The road to the location was desolate, with only a few old houses scattered along it. When I arrived, the scene before me stopped me in my tracks. Max lay collapsed on the porch of his former home, panting heavily, his cloudy eyes filled with despair. His belly was so swollen I felt he could no longer roll over on his own. As I stepped closer, Max lifted his head slightly, his eyes meeting mine. In that gaze, I saw no anger, no resentment. What I saw was a silent plea, weak, yet powerful enough to pierce straight into my heart. I turned to look at Max's former family. They stood at a distance, avoiding my eyes. They said, "We're sorry, we can't keep him anymore. His illness is too severe, and we can't afford it." Those words filled me with both anger and sorrow, because I knew Max never chose illness, nor did he choose abandonment. Gently, I extended my hand toward Max. He didn't resist, didn't bark, he only trembled slightly as I touched him. Perhaps he was too exhausted to fight anymore. In that moment, I knew there was no turning back. I had to take Max with me immediately. I lifted Max into my arms, feeling his weak breathing and the heavy weight of his fluid-filled belly. He whimpered softly, then quickly nestled against my chest, as if he had finally found a last safe place. As I shut the carrier door, I looked at Max and silently promised, "Little one, I won't abandon you. I'll do everything in my power to save you, no matter the outcome." The rescue vehicle jolted along the bumpy road as I rushed Max to the nearest veterinary clinic. His labored breaths echoed steadily, interspersed with faint whimpers that tore at my nerves. I glanced at the carrier again and again, just to make sure he was still breathing. In my mind, only one thought repeated: please let me make it in time. Please let there still be a chance to save him. Time crawled so slowly that every second felt like an hour. As soon as I stepped into the clinic, the veterinarian and nurses rushed over. With just one glance, they could see Max's critical state. His belly was distended, his fur dull, and his eyes clouded from exhaustion and dehydration. The vet sighed softly and muttered, "If you had come any later, it might have been too late." His words hit me like a blow, as if someone had gripped my heart tightly. I knew Max's life was hanging by the thinnest thread. They immediately began draining the fluid from his abdomen. As the needle pierced in, streams of cloudy yellow liquid slowly flowed out, and Max's belly gradually deflated. Relief and sorrow battled within me, for each drop of fluid was proof of the silent suffering he had endured. Max whimpered softly, his eyes half closed, but he didn't resist. Perhaps he knew this was his only chance at survival. After more than an hour, Max's belly had reduced significantly. He could breathe more easily, but his strength was nearly gone. The vet explained this was only the first step. Max would need more fluids, diuretics, and further tests to find the root cause. I sat beside the exam table, watching Max lie motionless with an A4 line in his tiny paw. A storm of questions filled my head. Will he make it? Do I have the means to care for him all the way through? The vet explained the ascites could be caused by liver disease, heart failure, or severe malnutrition. With proper treatment, Max still had a chance, but the journey ahead would be long, costly, and full of challenges. I looked at Max and recalled the moment his eyes met mine on that porch. That wasn't the gaze of someone who had given up. It was the gaze of a little warrior still wanting to live, still longing to be loved, and so I made my decision. No matter how hard it would be, I would not abandon Max. I would walk this road with him to the very end. The days that followed were a relentless series of trials. Max stayed in the hospital under close observation. Each time the vet checked on him, I felt like I was waiting for exam results. At every hint of bad news, my heart clenched at times. Max was so weak he wouldn't even open his eyes, only flicking his ears faintly at the sound of my voice. But there were also moments when he struggled to lift his head, gently licking my fingers as if to say, "Please don't give up on me." I grew accustomed to spending hours each day sitting beside Max, telling him about the world outside the wide skies, the green grass, the other dogs running free. I hoped those words could give him just a little more strength. Visitors came to the clinic, looked at Max, and shook their heads. "Poor thing, he probably won't make it," but I refused to believe that. I believed in the resilience I saw in his eyes. On long nights, I sat in silence, reflecting on human indifference. Because of illness, Max was cast aside as a burden. But to me, he wasn't a burden, he was a life, a friend who deserved a chance. At times I grew exhausted, stressed by the costs and the worry. But the moment I saw Max forcing down one more bite of food, or lifting himself to take a few shaky steps, all that stress melted away. Max wasn't just fighting for himself, he was teaching me a profound lesson about patience, love, and responsibility. I realized sometimes animals teach us more than humans ever could. I let out a small sigh of relief when I realized Max was still breathing, though weakly. He lay trembling, eyes barely open, filled with exhaustion, but also with a faint glimmer of plea. I bent down, gently stroked his head, and whispered, "It's okay, buddy. I'm here now. You're going to be all right." I pulled a small towel from my backpack and wrapped it around Max to keep him warm. The evening wind swept across the desolate field, making his frail body shiver even harder. I quickly cradled him against my chest, giving him both safety and the warmth of my body. Just then, a farmer passing by stopped and looked at me with concern. He asked, "Do you need help? That dog looks very weak." I nodded, quickly explained the situation, and asked if he had any warm water. Without hesitation, he returned with a bottle of spring water and an old wool scarf. I was touched by this unexpected kindness. I carefully poured some warm water into Max's mouth. At first, he didn't react, but after a few seconds, his small tongue moved, accepting the drops. A small sign, but enough for me to believe Max still had the will to live. I told the farmer, "I need to take him to a vet immediately." He nodded and pointed me to a small clinic in the nearby town. It was about 6 kilometers away, which sounded close, but for a dog as weak as Max, every second mattered. I carried Max in my arms and hurried toward the main road to find transportation. Along the way, I could feel how weightless his body was, nothing but skin and bones. Every step I took was heavy with fear. Would I make it in time? Would Max survive this ordeal? When I finally managed to get a motorbike ride, I held Max tightly in my arms, my heart racing with every turn. Only one thought echoed in my mind: Max must live. He deserves a chance.